Hi. The last decade, from 2008 financial crisis to the recent 2020 coronavirus pandemic, the world has seen real transformation. The very nature of international relations and the rules are changing in front of us. For India, this means effective leadership and good relations with all the major powers so as to advance its goals. It also requires an audacious and non-reciprocal approach to its immediate neighbors. How India will relate to this global changing landscape, and what are the strategies that India should follow in the coming years to make a path ahead so as to maintain its place in the international world stage. This is what the book The India Way, Strategies for an Uncertain World reflects on. Let's look at what is the abstract, what is his observations and reflections on the past burdens of India's foreign policy, what are the current issues, and what he considers the way forward for India's foreign policy. Dr. Jaishankar is presently the Minister of External Affairs. He was previously a diplomat and has served as a Foreign Secretary. Prior to that, he was the Ambassador of India to US, China and the Czech Republic. In addition to holding this eminent portfolio, he has also played a crucial role in negotiating Indo-US civilian nuclear agreement. Dr. Jaishankar's The India Way, Strategies for an Uncertain World is a meditation on the sources of India's conduct on the global stage and on the evolution of India's foreign policy at a time of unprecedented changes in the global order. The rise of China and its consequences, nationalism and its discontents, and the Mahabharata as a prism to evaluate India's strategy. His credentials are impeccable when it comes to dissecting India's options towards foreign policy in these turbulent times. The book, in fact, is generating a lot of interest and curiosity among readers, mainly because, first, this book is written by a career diplomat who has more than 4 decades of experience, and presently he is the minister, and so it is but obvious that the readers would like to know the first-hand information about New Delhi's thinking towards foreign policy. Secondly, more so because he is now into a more powerful and a strategic defining role, and getting an insight about his thinking would be enchanting. Thirdly, because of his reputation of being contemplative and intellectual. Lastly, in a changing world, particularly after the post-COVID times, where priorities have changed and nationalism has taken over more than multilateralism, it would be a challenge to see how the politics of diplomacy will settle down. Moreover, as a diplomat, he has given shrewd observations. Let us look at some of the reflections from the book. The book kicks off with an unfortunate insight into the past complacencies where India was reduced just to be a bystander when spiral of reforms went by. For elucidating this unfortunate event, he depicts a scene from the memorable film from Satyajit Ray where 2 Nawabs were engrossed in the game of chess. And seeing at the inflexibility of the Nawabs, British took over the kingdom and asserted their authority in the unsupervised kingdom. In the present context, to drive the point further, he says that India needs to be very careful with the emergence of China and the other forces that are in play. As Jaishankar illustrates, India's foreign policy is plagued by 3 burdens of the past. The first is the 1947 partition. When partition happened, it led to the formation of Pakistan, and Pakistan's foreign policy. An unintended consequence was to give further space to China in Asia. This has led China to use Pakistan against India to contain India. India has been suffering because of this for so many years, and till we are suffering because of that. The second is the delayed economic reforms. India, if we have to compare with China, it is almost 15 years behind, and China is ahead of India in all its capabilities. That delay of 15 years has affected India largely. The disadvantage is such that the Chinese economy is almost 5 times bigger than India. If you look at the India-China trade deficit, it is nearly $50 billion. The third is the prolonged exercise in the nuclear option. China exercised its nuclear capability in 1964, India in 1974, and then to declare it as a nuclear power, it took another 10 years. So it was eventually in 1988 that India was eventually declared as a nuclear power. The delay has resulted in Pakistan also becoming a nuclear power by that time. This again has gone as a disadvantage to India. For reasons which is known to observers of the foreign policy, the book continuously talks about the India-China relationship, the emergence of China. The theme of the book is more or less based on China and its emergence. And one of the most important lines, to quote Dr. Jaishankar in the book, and definitely is going to be the best line, is, "This is a time to engage America, manage China, cultivate Europe, reassure Russia, bring Japan into play. The management of China is examined from multiple dimensions, from bilateral and regional to the wider balance of power considerations." In going through the 8 chapters of the book, one comes across the reiterating theme revolving China, the rise of China, the foreign policy and security policy that India has to have with regards to this, the US-China dynamics, challenges and opportunities in the contemporary world, which is continuously evolving. True to his contemporary style of articulation, Dr. Jaishankar comes out with expressions such as this: "For nearly 2 decades, China has been winning without fighting, and the US has been fighting without winning." Along with the several pertinent issues that has been discussed in the book, which includes repositioning of the USA, the rise of China as an emerging power, Brexit, where Japan is being headed, one thing that Dr. Jaishankar wants to inform to all the people in the world is that the way the economic affairs are being done in the world has changed as the nature of power has changed. During the times of the Cold War, it was the military connotation. Later, it became soft power and economic issues. Today, it has several connotations such as technology advancement, trade, finance, commerce, and investment, etc. Another significant thing that he has mentioned in the book is that we are presently living in a multipolar world, which is more practical and pragmatic. In this multipolar world, working through alliances and agreements is a thing of the past. This will not work. The present world is a world of convergences. He has explained it that even if countries who are very close with each other will not agree on all the points or on all terms, even if the countries are not that close, may agree on some of the issues. So it is more or less on a multipolar world. So it will be difficult for countries who have been working on an alliance or as an independent player going forward. So from what he writes, it is evident that he does not favor India joining any alliance system, nor he is not in the favor of non-alignment either. He gives an example from the Mahabharata, citing Balarama, who was not involved in the war. Even though he was not involved in the war, yet he had to face the consequences. To quote Mr. Jaishankar, where we have remained uninvolved, we are nevertheless left to face consequences. On some questions, we run the danger of displeasing all parties. Where we have aligned on larger contradictions, our reluctance in doing so fully has not been without cause. So it is a call for action, and action according to him is Krishna's choice, the way of following the Dharma. That is, follow the Dharma of the state and do everything in the interest of the nation and achieving the nation's goals by whatever means. According to him, it is a bet on multi-engagements in a multipolar world, which is more pragmatic and energetic as compared to the earlier times of self-restraint and non-involvement. Mahabharata, according to Dr. Jaishankar, contains every facet of diplomacy and real politics. In India's engagement with the West, Dr. Jaishankar emphasizes on the shared values and also on the changes that is underway. He argues that the West should understand that India's growth story is in the interest of the Western interests. With regards to Pakistan, he talks about the Uri and Balakot models, where he emphasizes that terrorism will not go unpunished. With regards to China, he believes in realism. He also comments on the matured strategic dealings that is happening with China that has led to the Wuhan and Chennai summits. Both occasions were exercises in pure realism. On diplomacy, Jaishankar writes that it is the economy that drives diplomacy and not the other way around. But unfortunately, he has to drive diplomacy at a time when the country is facing through an economic crisis, which would, according to his own arguments, limit India's options. But he still lauds India's realism in reaching out China in Wuhan and Chennai. Jaishankar also warns India on the possible dangers and perils of corona nationalism. The COVID-19 pandemic has not only just triggered the humanitarian crisis, but also altered the tendency and trajectory of how countries deal with one another. However, from every crisis, there comes an opportunity. It is hoped that the COVID-19 pandemic may just be the platform for India to exploit so as to become self-reliant, self-sufficient, and a vibrant economy, practiced according to the principles of inclusivity and collaboration. So, it is very important for India to be decisive in this new world of multipolarity. What is important is that India should look out for all options and just not only rely on debates and deliberations, but also execute and act on them. India should work on convergences to be objective and create a balance by working closely on converging interests with each other. As an ardent believer in the principles of peace, he has mentioned that war should be the last resort for India. So the India way of foreign policy would be many friends, few foes, great goodwill, and more influence. So to sum up, this book does something which few other practitioners would have managed to do. It delves into the wider debate on the sources of India's foreign policy, conducted by arguing that as Indians continue to contribute more and more into this world, it should be based and must rely on the traditions to equip them to face a more disruptive world. Jaishankar wants India to make choices but refuses to articulate those choices. There is a lot to admire in this book, but as one completes reading the book, it comes to a pestering feeling that the author has held back as much as he has revealed. Maybe probably because he is still the sitting minister in the Modi cabinet and may be constrained to give an in-depth analysis. In fact, in one of the interviews he has said that the reason why he thought of writing this book is that being in the field for so many years, he thought that it is important to put forward a narrative that would be in the best interest of people to understand theoretically and practically about this field. Hope the information has been useful. Thank you for watching this video.